There is an ancient, forbidden text that claims that at this very moment, angels are recording your every thought, every word, and every action. A book that has remained hidden for centuries, excluded from most Bibles. In it, the judgment after death is not symbolic. It is detailed, organized, almost bureaucratic. What if your name is already written in that celestial court? The Book of Enoch is one of the most mysterious texts of antiquity, indirectly quoted in the Bible itself, but removed from the official canon in most traditions. It has survived complete only in Ethiopia, preserved by a church isolated from the rest of the world, and within it lies something unsettling. The description of a tribunal that decides the eternal fate of souls. For centuries, this book was considered dangerous. Some religious leaders believed its revelations were too detailed. Others said it revealed secrets reserved only for heaven. But ultimately, what did Enoch see? According to the text, Enoch did not die like other men. He was taken to heaven to witness realities invisible to humans. There, he saw angels called watchers, responsible for observing humanity. Beings who not only watched, but recorded everything. These watchers kept books where every human action was recorded, not just obvious crimes, but hidden intentions, even thoughts that were never verbalized. Imagine for a moment that nothing you do is truly forgotten, that every daily choice echoes in unseen records. The Book of Enoch describes repositories of souls awaiting judgment, separate compartments for the righteous and the unrighteous, aware of their impending fate. These souls did not wander freely. They waited in a kind of spiritual antechamber, knowing that at some point they would be summoned before a throne enveloped in fire and intense light. Enoch describes the great and glorious one seated on this throne. Around him, myriads of angels performing specific functions. Nothing seemed chaotic. It was a system, a structure, a court. But what truly makes this account disturbing is the way the judgment unfolds. It's not based solely on outward actions. It's based on the absolute truth of the heart. And here the inevitable question arises: if his deepest motivations were revealed now, would they absolve him or condemn him? The text states that books would be opened and that the works of men would be read before the heavenly hosts. There is no advocate. There is no possible argument against truth itself. Some passages describe powerful kings trembling before the court, men who in life seemed untouchable, discovering that titles and riches have no weight there. The only measure is justice. And then Enoch sees something even more impressive: a son of man being presented as the chosen judge, a figure associated with righteousness and eternal authority. Centuries before this expression became central to Christianity, this raises a profound historical question. Did the Book of Enoch influence later ideas about final judgment, or was it describing an even older tradition? And why is this detail rarely discussed? As the vision progresses, the scene intensifies. Angels execute sentences, and the destinies become irreversible. Some are led to the light. Others are cast into regions described as fiery abysses. But the text suggests something even more complex. Not all receive their sentence immediately. There is mention of waiting periods, of distinct compartments within the afterlife, as if the spiritual universe operated with judicial stages. First the separation, then the final sentence. And this completely changes the simplistic idea of instantaneous heaven and hell. Here, there is a process. There is a record. There is a hearing, but there's a detail many ignore. Judgment doesn't begin after death. It begins during life, because, according to Enoch, the watchers are already observing. They are already writing. They are already recording. And what if this is more than just a metaphor? Because if the Book of Enoch is describing a real belief of the early Jewish communities, then the idea of a heavenly court didn't originate later. It was already present long before organized theologies. And this changes the origin of everything we understand about the final judgment. In the chapter known as parables of Enoch, the scenario expands. He sees thrones being prepared. He sees books being opened before a heavenly assembly. And he realizes that the judgment is not just individual, it's cosmic. In the vision, entire nations are called to account. Rulers who exploited the weak, powerful people who enrich themselves at the expense of others' suffering. There is no propaganda, only exposed truth. Enoch describes the fear etched on the faces of those who considered themselves invincible, men who in life controlled armies and empires, now trembling before records they cannot refute. The scene is almost cinematic, but what is most unsettling is not the kings, it is the ordinary people, because the text states that everyone, without exception, goes through the same judgment. There is no anonymity in eternity. And then one of the most disturbing parts of the book emerges. Enoch sees hollow places inside a great mountain. There the souls await, separated, each compartment reflecting the life they lived. The righteous are in a well-lit space, the unrighteous in dark and barren regions. It is not yet the final sentence. It is the conscious waiting for the definitive verdict. This means that, according to the text, the soul knows. It recognizes its own condition, even before hearing the sentence. And here is the most uncomfortable point. The judgment does not reveal something unknown to the soul. It confirms what it already knows. The truth is not imposed, it is exposed. Perhaps that's why the Book of Enoch was considered dangerous. It doesn't just speak of punishment, it speaks of absolute responsibility, no possibility of hiding intentions. Some scholars believe that parts of the New Testament echo these ideas. The opening of the books in Revelation, the figure of the Son of Man judging the nations, the separation between the righteous and the unrighteous. Literary coincidence, direct influence, or a shared tradition that was lost over time? The answer remains debated to this day. But there's an even more intriguing detail. Enoch also witnesses the judgment of the angels themselves. The watchers who corrupted humanity would be chained and would await their own condemnation. In other words, not even celestial beings would be above justice. The tribunal is not biased. It does not favor humans. It does not favor angels. It is universal justice. And this raises a disconcerting reflection. If even entities described as powerful face judgment, what about us? At the climax of the vision, Enoch sees the consummation of the final judgment. Injustice is eliminated, arrogance is silenced, and only a new order remains, a kingdom where corruption finds no place, where the record has been closed, where the books are finally shut. But before the vision ends, there is a silence, a moment when everything seems suspended, as if the decision were being sealed. And then the text describes a transformation, not just of the condemned or the justified, but of reality itself, as if the judgment were also a new beginning. The ancient heavens pass away, a new order is established. Injustice no longer has a place to exist. The tribunal is not only punitive, it is restorative. But there is something that echoes beyond the vision, because the Book of Enoch does not end with terror. It ends with a warning, a silent call to conscience. If the watchers record everything, then every choice matters, every hidden act, every unseen intention. The judgment described by Enoch does not depend on institutional religion. It depends on inner truth, on coherence between what one does and what one is. Perhaps that is why this text has caused discomfort. It removes intermediaries. It removes justifications. It places the human being alone, before their own essence. No discourse can alter records. No appearance can mask intention. In the court of souls, truth is not debated. It is revealed. And here is the question that has spanned centuries. If the books were opened today, what would be written about you? Which pages would weigh more? The Book of Enoch remained hidden for generations. It survived in fragments in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was preserved in its entirety only in Ethiopian tradition. as if it had been saved for the right moment. Some consider it merely ancient apocalyptic literature. Others see in it echoes of profound spiritual experiences. Some believe it is metaphor. Some believe it is memory. But regardless of the interpretation, the psychological impact is undeniable. The idea that life does not end in oblivion, that there is continuity, evaluation, consequence. Perhaps the true power of this text lies not in describing the afterlife, but in transforming the present. Because living under the awareness of an eternal record changes decisions. The court of souls may or may not exist as described. The watchers may be symbolic. The books may represent moral conscience, or they may be something far more literal than we imagine. The question remains open. What if, at this very moment as you listen to these words, some invisible entity is writing yet another line? The Book of Enoch offers no easy comfort. It offers responsibility, and perhaps that is precisely why it has almost been forgotten. In the end, the judgment after death may not be just a future event. It may be the final revelation of who we truly were, without masks, without an audience, just the truth.